Hello and welcome to From the Be All End, the Burnley podcast. Well, it's Sunday again, and we're all sat here, and we're no happier than we've been for many of the other Sundays we've been sat here. And in fact, the only game we've not done a debrief on is the game that we won at Luton. So I'm kind of thinking we perhaps should stop scheduling these in, guys. But we are here. We will pick apart Burnley's 3-0 defeat to Brentford from Saturday. I'm Andrew Greaves. Alongside me, Chris Borden, Paul Woodhouse, Justin Connolly. I was going to start with a positive in that James Trafford pulled off one or two decent saves. Anybody see that as we're grasping here, aren't we, Chris?
Saves you'd expect. I said saves. If he's not making them, I'd have been extremely concerned. And I think the best one's probably is it Norgard's shot? It gets flicked.
Yes.
It changes direction from Visser close range. A good start, but again, it's not in the corner. It's just a change of direction at pace. But he's made a pig's ear of the Morpay effort that Charlie Taylor hacks away off the line, and I just, I'm just looking at it. We were led to believe by that under-21 squad that we're signing a goalkeeper full of character and personality that you saw in that Euro final, where they backed him to save the penalty in the last minute and the double save, etc. But I'm seeing a goalkeeper from set pieces who's shying away in the pack. I don't think he's particularly vocal. You can remember Tom. You could hear Tom Heaton from the back of the long side. Tom was deafening. He had that presence. Pope had that presence. I think Muric ended up, after the sort of initial battle to win over the fans, particularly after the Blackpool game and the error at Wigan that led to the penalty. But again, you look at him in terms of stature, personality, character. I think he's some way behind Muric, and we've already picked his passing. I'm a better passer of the football. Muric, as we've all said, he's like having Glenn Hoddle in goal. I don't see that in Trafford. His distribution, they say it nearly. I mean, it was a fabulous, pressing from was it Visser that nearly forced a goal early on. But I'm back to where I'm not blaming him for any of the goals, but I'm in that sort of situation where it ain't working. It's time for change.
Woody, I mean, I think Chris is right. I think is there a case to be made that for his own good, let's not forget this is a young lad, never played above League One before this season, has cost a lot of money. At what point does it start becoming, in his best interest to pull him out of that firing line, pull him out of that situation?
There's that piece to it, isn't there? And then there's the piece to we just spent nigh on 20 million on a keeper, a young lad. And if you bring him out of the firing line now, at what point does he become a £5 million keeper? Because they soon lose the value, don't they? And is this a case of is sticking his heels in because there's that element there? But from a footballing perspective, there's no way he can play one-touch football. The reason why he's getting closed down, the reason why we have all these problems is because he's taking a couple of touches, and he's slowing the play down. He can't necessarily find a man. The guys in front of him aren't too sure as to where it's going or whatever. And that's where Muric is head and shoulders. Don't get me wrong, he's extremely good off his line. He's quick at getting to the foot of anybody. But other than that, I think there's probably a case to say maybe we do want to change it up. And I wasn't an advocate of that beforehand.
No, this is the thing, isn't it, Justin? It kind of feels like we, pre-season we were quite excited because of everything Chris had said. We were told by anyone who they saw interviewed from the under-21s squad or coaching staff saying, this is a guy who will be England number one. He's confident, he's got all that. But it's not just his goalkeeping ability, is it? Which is what we were told he was brought in for because he was good with his feet. I mean, Dan Barnes, to be fair, the Bolton News reporter, did say that, there's one or two dodgy moments in him, and that's even at League One level. There is just no room for growing and having time to grow in this division, is there?
No, I think that's absolutely right. And everything that everybody said is true, I think. I think there's a lot more going on in the team that's wrong, that is perhaps putting him under a little bit more pressure than he might be put under different circumstances. It's this confidence thing that worries me, because I think at the start of the season, he seemed to be that player, but I think that sort of ebbed away a little bit over you can't be conceding 23 goals in how many games is it now? Not
9 games.
9 games. You can't be picking the ball out of the back of the net that often and not impact on your confidence. And there were a couple of occasions where there was a ball over the top, and he wasn't playing that sweeper keeper role. He didn't come out and deal with it. He left it to the defenders, and the defenders occasionally were looking a little bit surprised that they had a ball to deal with, especially when they were getting pressed like they were. That seemed a bit awkward. But I mean, I can't say that he's done it. He's not made any calamitous errors, has he? He hasn't really done anything wrong, and he hasn't. Let's be honest. That first half on Saturday, if it hadn't been for the saves that he made, we would have been 3 or 4-0 down at half time, and that the game's completely gone. Then he's kept us in the game a little bit, but like I say, I suspect, and we'll probably get into this in a minute, that there's a lot more going on in front of him. These spectacular shots from sort of 15, 20 yards that keep flying into the top corner, they're not his fault. They're people not closing down properly. That's weakness in the midfield. That's not enough numbers back when they break and all that sort of thing. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think if we did change that, it would be changed for change's sake, and maybe that is needed. I don't know, but I think it's a bit unfortunate to try and just lay it all on Trafford's feet, because I don't think he's done that badly.
I certainly wouldn't lay it all at his feet, but it's no. Like I say, I hark back to last summer and the opportunity to sign Verbruggen. Sort of what we were led to believe that Burnley were priced out of that move because Anderlecht wanted the region of £5 million. Then go and spend not far shy of that on Muric. That if they liked Trafford, I mean, they must have been aware of him. He'd had a season in League One with 6 months with Stanley, and then the rest of the season with Bolton. They could have took him then and give him a year in the Championship. But instead you're asking the kid to make a 2-division jump, and that's it, in front of the most porous Burnley defence we've seen since Stan Ternant's last season in charge. Well, or even the Coyle Laws season where we ended up shipping 82, I think it was. You're on par to hit that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if we say persist with Trafford, do we kind of change the way that we play from the back? Do we not play as deep? Do we have to push that line a little bit further up and do a little bit more like Newcastle do with Pope, for example? You've got to compensate for it somehow, haven't you?
Yeah.
You either accept that he can't play with the ball at his feet and then change the way that you play, or you change the personnel. It's only one or the other. You don't keep doing this shit week over week.
Yeah. But the problem is at the minute, of course, we've not got a settled back four, have we? And we won't have another settled back four for the next game because of Roberts' stupidity. And I'm going to call it out as stupidity because there is absolutely no way on earth that I can put up with a defender or any footballer, when you're told at the start of the season that if you delay a restart with a stupid action like throwing a ball back on the pitch or standing in front of a player, you're going to get carded, right? So there's no excuse straight away. You know what the rules are. There's no excuse. So he's going to be suspended now, which then means if Vitinho's fit, I presume he is, and he just wasn't. I don't think he was even in the matchday squad because of Vinny's chopping and changing. We're now having to bring Vitinho in. And Vinny will probably look at that back four and think, well, actually, Delquar might come in for Alderkeeler or O'Shea. So again, we're changing his back four. So as a keeper, when you're a young keeper, you know, and this is probably one of the reasons that Alderkeel's looked as shaky as he is, because he's not been alongside consistently a more experienced. I know Bayer's not exactly a veteran at the back there, but that back four has chopped and changed so much. Is there a case? And I fully agree with Woody. I think yeah, absolutely. If you want to play Trafford, then you change your system, because it is abundantly clear after 9 games that the system you want to play, which that Muric can play, if it is about finding them long passes, absolutely. Could Muric find Koleosho or Odebar in the same way as he found Taylor last year? Absolutely he could. Can Trafford? No. Can anybody else in that back four? No. O'Shea's distribution is dreadful. Bayer's distribution is all right.
You're missing Taylor Howard Bellis, aren't you? Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that, Chris, and that's the thing. So you kind of go, well, actually, we decided not to go for Taylor Howard Bellis because we didn't think he was quick enough, which is what I got told. We didn't think he was developed enough to play that game. But then what you've done is you've then lost that ability to play those balls like we used to do to Zarori and to Benson. We'll come on to Zarori, I'm sure. How he's still not getting on. But is there a case that if we can start, and I don't want to bang on about injuries because every bugger bangs on about injuries, a probably centre-half pairing when fit for me would be Ekdal and Bayer, 100%. Because I think with Ekdal, you've got a bit of experience. He's perhaps a little bit sluggish. We saw that a couple of times last season, so he's not got the pace of Alderkeel. But then do you play Alderkeel at right back? The minute I was shocked to see O'Shea in that starting lineup when you've got a left-sided centre-half in Delquar, who's tall. He looks pretty good in the tackle, got decent awareness, spatial awareness, and you've got 2 right-sided centre-halves playing next to each other. So one of them's having to play on the wrong foot. And you've got a very left-sided Charlie Taylor who's very, very left-footed. So you're just causing yourself problems. As soon as I saw that lineup, you kind of went, well, yeah, fair enough. We're ambitious.
Well, they say, but it doesn't matter. We just they simply cannot defend from Berger's, back to goal, giving away possessions so easily. Pop, you're 1-0 down. And, you actually look at the goals they're conceding and they are getting bodies back.
Yeah.
You always used to look at Sean's team, like I say, as the cliche, you could chuck a blanket over him and you roughly know where every player would be. It's not that sort of framework that they're working from, but they are getting bodies back. Like the second goal, the third goal, there's bodies there, but they're just whether they're sluggish in reading situations. It's like walking football. The second and third goals. How much time do you want to tee up Premier League footballs to say, go on, do what you want? Bend one in top corner, smash one in the far side. It's embarrassing. They're just not good enough ultimately to play. We can't play out from the back. We're inviting trouble. They've lost the range of passing from the back and the midfield. If you're going to play, Berger is not a defensive midfielder.
No.
Cullen, I feel sorry for Cullen.
Yeah, I think that was the most disappointing element of it, wasn't it? It was like, we seem to have decided after those early drubbings that we needed a bit more help in the midfield, and he brought Brownhill back into the team, didn't he? And we had a bit more. It had a bit more about it. But if you're going to play basically they went back to that 4-2-4 thing, didn't they? And if you're going to do that, you need you need Patrick Vieira and Roy Keane as your 2 central midfielders, don't you?
You need 2 proper defensive midfielders, don't you?
You're not going to do it with Cullen and Berger. They're both good players in their own right, but in order to get the best out of them and get them playing in the right places in the pitch, you need somebody to help them, and it's no good because the net result of that is you're inviting much more pressure onto your back four, which we've already decided, we're not 100% about, but you can't get the ball to those 4 players up front because you just get closed down all the time. We were absolutely overrun in the middle of the pitch there. And there's just, and then the really disappointing thing was when he changed it, he just changed the personnel, didn't he? Sort of kept the same system, just sort of swap
under 20 winger for another under 20 winger,
takes Berger off and puts Brownhill on. When we need both of those players on the pitch and Cullen to try and get control of it again. We were never ever in control of that game, and that was because it wasn't anything to do with Trafford's distribution or the way they were. It was because we didn't have enough bodies in that midfield.
Yeah, the way we started yesterday, it was just everything about it. You just knew it was going to be an horrible afternoon because, like you say, we never got going, never got any tempo, never got more than 2 or 3 passes together before we lost the ball. I mean, we've not even mentioned VAR. I mean, how VAR has managed to save us with that first goal.
I thought that was right,
Yeah, I did too, actually.
It's an attacking free kick, and they've got 3-4 players in offside positions. Well, they're interfering with play.
Because it said Nathan Collins offside, who wasn't offside, of course.
No, he wasn't.
I think
he played the ball, so it may be a...
Ayer and Foster are involved in a sort of they're both together, aren't they, going for the ball when it's in mid-air at the back post? And but if you're an attacking team and you've got 4 players offside from an attacking free kick, they're interfering with play by the very virtue of the fact.
Ayer's definitely interfering with play because he's tracking Foster, isn't he? So if Ayer's not there, Foster's helping Charlie Taylor deal with Nathan Collins. So
maybe I
think that's fair enough.
Yeah, maybe it's a labelling. Like you said, it said checking goal offside Nathan Collins, and I was a bit like, well, I mean, there's no way Nathan Collins is offside.
No,
and he's the one who plays the header back across. But would it? I mean, we've talked about this a little bit. This unbalance in the recruitment. We've signed 7 or 8 players who play roughly in the same position, and didn't fill the left back berth, which we knew was a problem. Didn't get. Really, in terms of Delquar and O'Shea, got 0.75, 0.9 of a centre half, probably, because Delquar's kind of left back but plays centre half. Didn't sort out that centre midfielder, which all 5 of us, with Simon included, were crying out for that strong, rangy, defensive midfielder. It's becoming a bit of a failed window, isn't it? Despite all the excitement of, these players look good on YouTube, and this player is going to be the first £100 million player. It's a bit of a failure, is it not? 9 games in.
I mean, it's a bit of a failure now. Towards the end of the season, if we do have a season where we do go down and it's Derby-esque, we're going to sit there and it's going to be like, would I lie to you when David Mitchell's just been rumbled again by Bob Mortimer, and we're going to go, fucking hell, of course. You know what I mean? We signed a load of 18-year-olds who've never played a first-team game of football in it, lad, and we expected to stay up. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? And that's what's going to happen. It's the £800 gorilla that we're slowly starting to see, come into view. And even though Koleosho has been arguably one of our better performers, this idea to get a load of untested, untried youngsters as our mainstays, that's the point, as our mainstays, could be seen to be absolute folly at the end of it. Not just a failed window, but an absolute lunatic window.
Yeah. I've now got Bob Mortimer holding the card in my head going, I once signed 7 or 8 players to play in the same position and thought I could survive in the Premier League as a kind of, running through my head now. I don't think I'm going to be able to forget about that.
But it's not hindsight, is it? It's not hindsight, right? It's
we
not
said it at the time.
You're excited by potential and you're excited by spending the finances they spent. But we were all saying, Why on earth are we signing so many wide players? Why on earth are we signing so many inexperienced players? Where is this holding midfielder? They signed one. We haven't seen sight the sound of Masengo. Where is it? Where's CJ Egan-Riley?
Chippy in a retro shop.
Yeah. he's up at the singing ringing tree, isn't he? Yeah. But you got CJ Egan-Riley, who, for a thick end of 18 months, we haven't seen him. Yeah. He can play as a holding midfielder, so we're told. But we were all puzzled at the time by the transfer policy. They signed a load of potential, thinking we can make a lot of money out of these lads in a few years, but without sort of any thought as to how they're going to gel together, and are they any good? Are they good enough to prosper at this level initially? It's coming home to roost. It's just really, really frustrating at the moment. I'm exasperated.
Frustrating is a good word, isn't it, Justin? Because you can kind of see the kind of what they want to do, but it's like a car crash in slow motion. You know that of all somebody needs to do is put the brakes on and kind of go, right, we've had us fun now. We've given everybody else a bit of a head start because we're going to storm it. Let's get back to basics. I mean, what Chris and you and Woody have been talking about, not getting out sharp enough, not closing down, wandering back. They're basics, aren't they? They're there's no red line there at all. You've just got, what did Sean used to say? Minimum requirement, maximum effort. Are we getting maximum effort out of them players? And is the problem when you bring in all these creative players that they're so used to having smoke blown up their arse because they're a bit jinxy and they're doing this and they're doing that, that actually, unconsciously, they're just not used to putting in those hard miles. But I'll tell you what, you do get the hard miles out of Manuel Benson. You do get the hard miles out of Zaroury when it comes to tracking back. And I'm not pointing the finger at us young wingers and things like that. But frustrating, I think, is a great word that Chris used there, isn't it? Because we can see what's up. Everyone on Up the Clarets can see what's up. Everyone on Twitter can see what's up. Yeah. Everybody in the stands can see what's up. The management team can see what's up. But it almost feels like, well, we've made us bed, so we're going to lie in it until somebody comes and joins us and we get it on and it kind of produces babies.
It has been massively frustrating because I think everybody can see the potential in the squad. They can see that we have invested in players who may be great players eventually. But I think the problem is there's just too many of them in the team all at the same time, all learning the ropes, all getting to grips with the fact that, you don't get a lot of time on the ball. There's two players on top of you within milliseconds of you getting a touch on it. They're all dawdling about. They're all thinking, I've got the space that I had in the Belgian First Division or whatever, and they just don't. And they're all not. It's all just not working, is it? It's a massive gamble, isn't it? It's a massive gamble on saying we can just throw all these players in, and we've got time with them on the training ground, of course, but there's no substitute for experience. And when they play in these games, you expect them to learn and to learn quickly. And that's the gamble, isn't it? The gamble is how quickly are they going to learn to come to terms with how quick the game is, how little time they've got on the ball, how the pressing from the opposition is just going to be on a different level. I think Koleosho has sort of seemed to come to grips with that quite quickly, but even then he doesn't really produce much at the end of it, does he? He goes past people and then the cross isn't great.
He's raw, isn't he? Definitely raw.
He's raw, but he's one of a number of players who just look like, they need. This is what's really frustrating to me, and a lot of people have alluded to this on Twitter and on the forums and so on. We had a season in the Championship, which I came to terms with getting relegated on the grounds that we had a season in the Championship, which would allow us to recalibrate, rebuild the squad, and give players the experience that they needed to then go forward into the Premier League as a squad that has spent a season together and, make a good show of it. Everyone's saying, aren't they? We should have bought Howard Bellis. We should have got Teller. We should have got Maatsen. Day one, as soon as the transfer window opened, that's the first order of business. And then you build on that with a replacement for Barnes up front. You build on that with a central midfield. And then you've got that experience. You've got that way of playing. We had an identity last season. We had a way of playing. This season, I don't know what it is. So, yeah, it's really frustrating that we've made this gamble. Whether it comes off or not, I think still remains to be seen. I think we need to get the balance right between going health. I mean, I think on Saturday we tried to do that thing that he seems quite keen on, which is overwhelm the opposition with our pace up front. We never got the ball anywhere near Trezor and Odebert down the left hand. We never got the ball near him because we didn't have enough strength in the centre of the park. So we need that pragmatism that he brought in that got us a few points. He seems to have just thrown that out the window again. And he talks a lot about progress. I see this game as a really worrying, massive step backwards to what we were trying to do before we realised that we couldn't just sort of overwhelm people with our pace up front because you need to be a bit more wily than that. So frustrating, yeah, but also quite... I'm beginning to worry that the big gamble is not going to pay off.
And Woody, we've said a couple of times, haven't we, that, I think Simon's used the word kind of, are we being too cute? I don't think Mike Trezor has done enough to keep his place. I'm beginning to think at some point in this season, Mike Trezor is going to pull off a mask, Scooby-Doo style, and it's the fucking ghost of Dame Richards or something like that, because at the minute he does not look like the Belgian Player of the Year. If that's the Belgian Player of the Year standard, then I'm one good season away from becoming a demigod at Royal Antwerp or something like that, because he's just not showing anything. When you've got someone like Brun Larsen who's chomping at the bit, I mean, he quite rightly looks absolutely miffed to have been sacrificed for Delcourt once Roberts had, done his stupidity. It's now tipping into that point. I think Simon also used the word arrogance at one point to describe Kompany after 2 matches, which might have been ludicrous at that point. But it is almost that stubbornness, that kind of trying to be too cute and thinking that it will come good. That's going to start turning into a real kind of, mental block, you'd think, at some point for Vincent Kompany, isn't it? Because if he can't, at this stage of a season, realise that actually a little bit of pragmatism, get the project back on track and then start experimenting, he's in trouble, isn't he, in terms of, what outsiders think about his tactical nous. When you think about, is he going to be the next City manager at this rate? Chester City maybe. It's certainly not going to be Manchester City, is it?
No. And we all saw that team sheet, and I think everybody, not just on this pod, but all Burnley fans went, shit. We knew exactly what was coming yesterday because we'd seen it previously. So that's that level of stubbornness. We've just spoken about it, reverting back to type, this idea of having, Berger as a defensive midfielder. We know hasn't worked. So why the devil has he gone back to it again? Now, that's either stubbornness, stupidity. What is it? We've seen it not work, and we saw it yesterday not work. And the thing that worries me, I can accept if we bust a nut, etc., but you started to see like heads going a little bit yesterday. And once you start seeing heads going, and some of the talk afterwards from Cullen, even from Vinny in their interviews after, there was a lot of despondency there. And once you start hearing a level of negativity, and you don't hear the same buying into the project as they were previously, it seems like platitudes almost after yesterday. That's what kind of worries me. If they start losing that belief in what it is that they're trying to do, we really are fucked. Because no change of system, personnel or whatever is going to get over that kind of, squad despondency. And that's what happens when you lose all these games on the bounce, and so I am slightly worried about that, definitely. And I don't know how we get out of it either, to be honest with you.
Here's a question, Chris. I'm going to ask you this question first. And I'm asking this purely because it is being talked about. It is being asked on forums. Do you replace Vincent Kompany?
No.
As ludicrous as that sounds after 9 games, with the investment we've made, are we at a point where we have to at least start thinking about this project, if we want to stay in the Premier League, needs a new train driver?
I say we talk about credit in the bank, don't we? And he is learning on the job as well, like his young players. But I mean, that would be ludicrous, wouldn't it? On the back of what he achieved last season, he's scratching around at the moment. He's got that sort of, like I say, stubborn is the word. It happens a lot, doesn't it? It's sort of managers who, it's my way or the highway. We're going this way, and we're not altering my philosophy. Whether that's a really, very, very sharp tactical philosophy, or just a Keegan-esque, we're going to try and score more than you, like Coyle. I'm not going to work on the defensive side of things because we're going to try and entertain every week. And if we get beat 3-2, then so be it. But it's the same result in the end. Holloway was the same at Blackpool, wasn't he? We're going to entertain. Well, you got entertainingly got relegated. And you ain't come back since. It's there's certain sort of things, tactically. We spoke before Saturday's game. So, will Brentford play a back 3 or a back 4? And they went with the 4. Is he being? Sean Dyche got the criticism that he was reactive rather than proactive. Now, I would say with the changes he made during the game, and they were just say like for like. Are you going to try and influence the game and change the flow of the game? We aren't seeing that even. We just see if someone else can perform better in that role. Within our system, that's not working. It needs a real rethink. We've got defensive minds there. Vincent's one of the great centre halves of the Premier League era. And you've got Mike Jackson, who we all saw in the last 7 or 8 games 2 seasons ago, knows how to organise and set out a team. And you've got, Craig Bellamy, who went the other way in his career. But if we can't organise a defensive structure with those two on the backroom staff, what's going on? That is ultimately, we aren't good enough defensively. We've got these really exciting talents, like Justin said earlier. We ain't getting the ball to them. You've got Ayer at right back, who's he's just fish out of water. As soon as Koleosho gets one run on him, booked. And like we've seen with so many fullbacks, we're not running at them often enough after that. It's just it's getting the ball to these players. Are we going to play with a let's say a more pragmatic midfield 3, or are we seemingly going in with this like a front 4? Well, if you ain't getting the ball to them, you might as well give up. We need to balance is another word that's been used tonight. We haven't got anywhere near the balance, and until that's for Vincent to sort out. But he's long enough in the tooth and experienced enough to know that's the drill. But that's your only worry is if, like say, Alan Pace had only just give Sean a contract in the whatever it was September, October 2 seasons ago, and then with 7 or 8 games to go, push the button and panicked. Does he go down that route and think, my word, we desperately need, from a financial perspective, to retain Premier League status, and someone else is going to have to come in? We've all seen it done, haven't we? Like Leeds have done it a couple of times. It didn't work for them last time. No. So you wonder whether that might happen later in the day. But at this point in time, no. The long-winded answer to your question.
Would it shag, marry, avoid? No, not shag, marry, avoid. Wrong podcast. Back or sack? Oh, back or sack. That sounds bad as well. Are you backing Kompany or sack?
Crack. Yeah. I'll be having one later. Don't you worry about it. I mean, It would be absolute folly. It'd just be stupid. If you want to see us like going to a complete death spiral as a club, yeah, by all means, fire him off and just start being reactionary and start acting like dicks. At least we have to at least give him the time for the project, whatever that may be, whatever, however long it's going to be. I'll stick with him no matter. And this will be an ugly season. There's no two ways about it, by hook or by crook. But stick with him by all means.
Yeah.
I think it's like you say. It's a ridiculous statement.
Yeah, Justin, for a full house, us three all back Kompany. With your usual cheerful disposition, I presume you're going to join us and give him the full backing of the From the Be All End podcast team.
I can't even believe it's a debate that people are having. For me, even if we get relegated, I still stick with him and give him the opportunity to take us back up again. He's an inexperienced manager who's learning on the job, and hopefully he's learning something from every game that we play. So we've been very, very impressed by him as a articulate. I mean, I love listening to his press conferences because he absolutely steadfastly refuses to get engaged with any sort of cliche, and gives quite thoughtful and serious answers to all the questions. So we know he's a smart guy. He's impressive. We can't forget what he did last season. That was just one of the most exciting, sensational seasons that I've ever witnessed in my 50 years as a Burnley fan or whatever. But and I think that the longer we stick with him, the better he will become. So, it might be a roller coaster. Obviously, it's looking that way at the moment. It's looking like there's going to be more downs than ups this season, and it's going to be a bit of a struggle. But you've got to, at times like this, it's when you've got to back them. It's times like this when you've got to say, okay, you're telling us this is what you want to do. We trust you and we'll come with you. And I think Burnley as a fan base certainly will do that. I hope the ownership do the same. I think their opinion of it, their decision will be made based on the financials, won't it? How much of an absolute calamity financially would it be for us to be relegated? We don't know because we don't know what the structures of the deals that are in place and the wage structure and all that. I would imagine if it gets to the point where it's looking likely that we're going to get relegated, if that happens, and the investors, these mysterious people in the figures who keep putting these millions of pounds in, start getting a bit twitchy, then maybe he'll push the button. As Chris said, he didn't seem to agonize too much over pressing the button on probably the greatest Burnley manager of our lifetime. So I suspect he might not have too much sentimentality about this one if the financials don't work and the pressure from the investors comes in. But for me, Vincent Kompany, is the manager of Burnley Football Club for the foreseeable future. No doubt about that.
Excellent. Wow, I think we tried to start on a positive. I think we've ended on a bit of a positive there in that we all back Vincent Kompany. No update, I presume, on little drummer boy coming in to kind of help push the team. And
I was going to say
that.
That's what we need, isn't it? We need an optimistic drummer to make us feel a bit more upbeat, don't we?
Yeah. I think for Palace at home, we need to hire in 21,000 optimistic Burnley fans, depending on how next week's game at Bournemouth goes. We'll leave it there for this debrief. Sorry it wasn't any more positive. We try to be as positive as we can. It's just bloody difficult at the minute, isn't it? Don't forget to like, share, review, rate, do whatever you can on podcast platforms, just to help get us in front of more Burnley fans like yourself. We always love feedback on Up the Clarets, and on Twitter and Facebook. We're at BO Podcast. We'll be back on Friday with a preview of that now seemingly 6-pointer against Bournemouth. Hope you have a good week despite the result, and we'll see you on Friday. Up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Watson. Go.